This is Suspicious Minds with Wade Durbin and Burl Tuttle. All right, so there it was. We got it going. Yep. Okay.
We're back.
Yeah, we are back. Hey, how have you been? Okay.
Yeah. Just sweating it out in this insanely hot St. Louis summer. You know.
Yeah. Me too. But not in St. Louis.
Right.
In Chicago. But no, it's good to be back. It's been a little bit. We haven't done one of these podcasts in a little bit. So welcome back to Suspicious Minds. Once again, I am Burl.
And I am Wade. Does this count as the beginning of season 2, or is this a one-off?
I think it'll be a beginning of season 2, and then the rest of season 2 is coming eventually once we start recording them, I guess.
Sure.
Because we were taking the summer, right? We took we're taking the summer, and then once it cools off, I'm sure we'll be back on it. But I think something so amazing happened. This new Elvis movie came out. We're like, let's get together and let's talk about it. So that's what we're doing. That's why we're here today.
Right. I mean, what kind of Elvis podcast would we be if there was a big budget biopic about Elvis that came out and we didn't go see it and talk about it?
Yeah, probably just a podcast that we just didn't check any media ever. Like we just wouldn't have been aware of it. We're like, oh, it's this or that. But we were out there always looking for new shows, new stuff, and this is one of the things. So the new Baz Luhrmann Elvis picture.
At the time of this recording, it comes out today.
Yep. But you and I, knowing what we know, we both saw it yesterday.
Yeah. A couple of preview screenings because we're savvy like that.
Well, and I had weekend plans. I don't know about you.
Sure.
I had some other stuff to do. So Thursday worked out way better for me.
Oh, sure. And, I got kids, so I don't have any plans ever.
Right.
Just,
absolutely. Yeah. And they're not going to sit through that. I think
heavens no.
Yeah.
2 hour and 40-minute Elvis movie? I mean, they're 3.5. There's not a chance in hell they're going to sit through that.
Yeah, there'd be a meltdown in there. Probably, what do you think, right after the previews ended?
I would say halfway through the first preview, they would probably have a meltdown.
You'd be out of there.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, okay.
So, just, before we get started here, was your theater nice? Was it a dump?
No, it was nice. It had, the reclining seats. I hadn't been in a theater for a while. I mean, I think most places have kind of done that, kind of retrofitted, like the electric seat that reclines and all that. It was a little warm in there.
Okay,
I don't know what they're saving money on that for. I was expecting it to be like a chilly, ice-cold, air-conditioned experience, but it was a little warm.
Right.
But yeah, it was nice to get out and go see a movie. I hadn't been in a theater in a couple years, so everything else. And this one, if I'm not mistaken, did not stream, so you couldn't stream it.
Right. This was in theaters only.
Right.
Yeah, I myself haven't been to a movie theater since 2019.
Oh, and what was the feature you went to go see?
So kind of embarrassing to admit, but it was Avengers Endgame.
Oh, I don't know if that's embarrassing. I mean, know. Well, hey, did you see the one before it?
I did.
Okay.
Wait, what was one? It went Infinity War and then Endgame. Yeah. I saw
Xfinity War? Infinity War.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Secret Wars? Are we to the Secret Wars yet?
I don't think that they're doing Secret Wars yet. They should do that.
Yeah. So my theater, same experience as yours, I guess, similar. It was these big cushy reclining seats, nice little cup holder. I spent a combined total of $17 on a medium soda and a medium popcorn.
Wow. Worth every penny. Does that come with refills?
If it did, I didn't go for it.
Okay.
And I mean, if I'm going to spend that much, you would have the expectation, well, this better be the best popcorn I've ever had in my life. It just wasn't.
They're probably just off their game. I don't think anybody's been to a theater for so long.
Right.
That they're just like, oh, yeah, how do you run this popcorn machine? Mm-hmm. And so they probably had to watch a YouTube tutorial to relearn how to do it. Something like that, that's what I'm assuming. But at any rate, enough about the theaters.
Sure.
The spectacle that was the Baz Luhrmann Elvis movie. You want to walk us through a little bit of the background, and then we'll kind of get talking about it?
Oh, sure. This was written and directed by Baz Luhrmann, who is known for such films as Moulin Rouge from about 20 years ago now. And what else? There was a Great Gatsby adaptation with that Leo DiCaprio kid.
Oh, and he also did the Romeo and Juliet, also with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, yeah. Like, even before all that. And watching this film, I realized this is my first Baz Luhrmann film.
Is it? So you've never seen any of those other movies, though, then? You've never seen Moulin Rouge or...
No, I haven't. A lot of these movies had the disadvantage of being made within the last 20 years, and I just don't watch new stuff.
Gotcha.
I'm a co-host of an Elvis podcast, so I'm not watching new stuff.
You're too busy with the backlog of films.
Sure.
Once we get through that, maybe.
Really, if they stop making films for like 10 years and just let me catch up, that would be like awesome.
You want me to see if I can make that happen for you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see.
Yeah, call a congressman or something.
I might be able to help you with Hollywood, but I know Bollywood I cannot do. I have no strings to pull there, so they're just going to keep churning those suckers out.
Oh, man.
So,
yeah. And there's just, when you think about it, there's so many films, so much media. You're never going to see it all. You can't keep up with it all. And like you get to a certain point in your life where it's like, it's a new movie. I don't know, man. I don't care. I'm not going to watch it.
With the exception of this movie, which we did.
With the exception of this, which we kind of have to.
Right. We're contractually obligated at this point to do it. So I think we should kind of start off. So it starts off, it's sort of the Colonel Tom Parker, portrayed by Tom Hanks. It's kind of through his eyes, I guess, mostly his relationship with Elvis, how he kind of helped him become the star that we know today, how he was kind of pulling the strings behind the curtain, which they do a bunch of times, have him standing behind curtains to sort of portray him as this guy behind the curtain. We get it, Baz. Right. But we could just start off talking about Tom Hanks. What did you think of his portrayal of the Colonel?
I just realized now that Tom Hanks is playing Tom Parker. That's kind of funny.
Well, it's easy to remember, so it's easier to say a character.
Sure. Right. It's like how Jackie Chan always plays a character named Jackie.
But I think his rank was lower. I think Tom Hanks is only a lieutenant. So
he's just a he's just a lance corporal.
Yeah, damn it. He got busted down to that. Something he did on some sort of talk show. He busted him down.
Just in general, I like the Hanks. Always liked me some Tom Hanks. He's what do the kids call him? Like America's dad or whatnot?
I think he's the male Meg Ryan. Just lovable. He's absolutely lovable.
Yeah, he's great. He's got a great looking face. The camera loves him. Yeah. He's got a real kind of distinctive manic voice thing that he does. It's like unmistakable when he's like agitated. It's like, oh, that's that Tom Hanks crack in the voice. There it is. Right. And I was a big fan when I was a kid, though I am of the opinion, and I'm not like, telling a joke or anything, I do think he peaked with Bachelor Party. I don't think it ever got better than Bachelor Party.
That's a good one. Maybe we should do a Tom Hanks podcast, but all we ever do is talk about Bachelor Party, because that is a good one.
It is. It's a goddamn 5-star classic.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So anyway, Tom Hanks kind of after 1984, a little bit spotty with his career. I mean, I'm well aware of it, though. There's a lot of stuff like Sleepless in Seattle, if you want to talk your Meg Ryans, and just stuff like that I just never saw.
Castaway, ever see that one?
I did. I like that. It was good.
Okay. And The Saving Private Ryan, that's a good one.
I saw that as well. I wouldn't necessarily say a good time out at the movies, but, well worth watching.
It's too bad they never did a big screen Bosom Buddies. Like 10, 15 years later, they're still stuck there and dressing up as women to live in that apartment building.
Yeah, sorry to say, Burl. Too late now.
I know.
Yeah, kind of a bummer.
Scolari.
It's funny, Bosom Buddies, growing up watching that, I was always convinced that guy's the big star of the two. Scolari. Peter Scolari.
Great. He's very good. It's too bad funny. He didn't have a better career. I mean, he wasn't bad. His career wasn't bad, but it was no Hanks.
He was on, The Newhart Show?
He was on that, too. Yeah, he was on that. Yep.
And, he's had stuff here and there. But, I mean, obviously, you can't really compete with Hanks. Like, multiple Oscar wins, multiple huge hits, just this beloved figure in American film. But there is definitely this side of Hanks that just makes me mad. Like his Forrest Gumpisms and, just the rom-com stuff, which has never really been my bag. I'm just talking about all the baggage I'm bringing to this movie, with Tom Hanks being in it. Oh, and I should mention his directorial debut, That Thing You Do, is a delight.
It's a great movie. That song is good.
It is. It is. And here's something we talk about on the cast a lot. One of the all-time great Guitar Gear movies. That Thing You Do.
Yep, it's got some like old silver tones and stuff in there. Yeah.
Well, who's ever in charge of the guitar gear of that movie got it exactly right.
Yep.
It starts off as this garage band with this kind of like cheaper, like, silver tone Sears gear and stuff. And then they get a little bit more famous, and then, you could see, I went out and got like a Fender Jaguar or a Jazzmaster or whatever. Whoever was in charge of the gear, like, spot on, and hats off to them. So, anyway, but I digress.
We may have got a little far afield. But here was my take on it. When I saw Hanks, when he first started talking, like, what is this voice? I don't know if you've seen the interview that Parker did. This would have been, I think, in the 1980s. There's an interview that they have with him. There's not a lot of them out there, but he doesn't really sound like that. And all I kept thinking is he sounded like Mike Myers' Goldmember.
Yeah.
Like a lot. Like if you close your eyes and think back to watching that film,
right?
You're like, if he said like smoking a pancake kind of thing, right. You'd be okay. Yeah, that's where he got it. That's where he got it from. So
it didn't help when that scene they're on the Ferris wheel and he's like, cigar and a waffle.
Yeah, that was weird. It was weird that he was doing that. But I think they were trying to add some levity to it. Like, they're up here where the air's a little bit thinner on the Ferris wheel, making the jokes. I don't know. But I think all in all, it plays pretty good. Although, what did he keep saying? Snow jobs?
Snowman.
Well, he's the snowman, but he was pulling like snow jobs on people.
Right.
And for some reason, every time he did it, would make me giggle because it just sounded so weird.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the my boy thing that much, which I kind of sure is from Parker. I think he did call him that. But for some reason, over the course of the movie, and hear him saying it over and over again, it felt kind of creepy. But the guy was kind of creepy.
He was, though. I was getting kind of confused midway through because the opening, the whole framing sequence, it's Colonel Tom Parker's in his creepy little office filled with memorabilia, and he like collapses and he's in the hospital and he's like, well, before I go, let me explain to you the story of me and Elvis and like blah, blah, blah. And it's this kind of, I don't want to use the term fever dream too often in this episode because I feel like it might get overused. Yeah. Talking about a Baz Luhrmann film.
Right.
But, like that's kind of what it is. And what I was kind of expecting, the direction that this was going to go, was going to be this revisionist take on him telling his life story, and it's like, look at all the good things I did for Elvis, and I was really a hero. But the thing is, as the movie plays out, he's like pretty much depicted as unambiguously villainous. And it's like, would Colonel Tom Parker tell his life story casting himself as the villain?
No.
It kind of doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't.
It kind of reminded me of, this is like a few years back where they had this idea. It's like, oh, well, we're going to make a Robin Hood movie, but it's from the Sheriff of Nottingham's point of view. This troublemaker in Sherwood Forest, and he must be stopped and everything. And whatever, like when that movie came out, that's not what the movie was about at all.
Right.
So that was the Russell Crowe Robin Hood movie.
Right.
If you saw it. And anyway, it totally sucked. But I was just confused by it.
It's a weird frame to have on the movie. You're trying to tell the story of Elvis. You have to find the way to kind of get into describing the character and how he was revolutionary in all these different ways at that time. And it's a weird choice to pick Tom Parker because he was this guy that, Elvis did try to fire him a few times. He wanted his career to kind of move past what he had done for him. And his vision for what his career was, I think they showed it pretty early on with merchandising and trinkets. I mean, he did get him into Hollywood movies. He did get him on a national stage on television. But then it seemed like he kind of ran out of tricks. He didn't know what to do with him after the movie thing. And he just kept him on the road until he killed him, basically. Or in Vegas doing however many weeks at a time and then sent him out on the road and not developing him to do anything else. But, you know, and I guess we should mention we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie if we didn't mention that already at the beginning. So we were going to be talking about it. But they did talk about, like, A Star is Born and something that he could have done. And I think the Colonel submarined that. Asking for too much money and wanting Elvis to be the star of it. But I think Hanks portrays that well. It takes a while to get over the weird, you know, as an actor, I guess you make a choice. And that's what he found worked for this character. Did it take a while to get used to it? Yeah, by the end, I'm like, okay, well, I guess this is what this guy sounds like. But if you go back and listen to him, he doesn't sound like that at all.
No. And I, you know, really wish I'd have gone back and checked out some actual, you know, archival footage of Colonel Tom Parker. About the only footage that I'm familiar with, it's that Madison Square Garden press conference that Elvis did. He's wearing that baby blue suit, and it's the one where he's like, you know, well, I got this belt, and he like stands up. And then at the end of that, Colonel Tom Parker like comes out and says a few words. And that's really the only time I've heard him speak. But, you know, he just sounds like a regular, I don't know, born in America, Southern fried.
Yeah, he went to great lengths, I think, to disguise that accent. And yeah, I think the other thing is to find pictures of him and stuff. You know, it's sort of those blurry, him walking through the woods, like Bigfoot kind of things. That's mostly what exists.
Sure.
Right? There are not a lot of interviews with him. He was a very behind-the-scenes guy. And, you know, he was a really rich guy because he made 50% of Elvis's money.
It's insane.
You know? Yep, absolutely.
That's its own whole own subject. I mean, just how ridiculous that was.
Yeah, what a bizarre contract that, you know, you sign with Elvis and his two parents who probably, I don't know what their education level was, maybe high school, but both blue-collar Southerners, and just taking full advantage of that.
Well, you know, of Elvis's parents, you know, obviously Gladys was the brains of the operation. And,
for sure,
you know.
Yeah. So that's why they put Vernon in charge of Elvis Presley Enterprises.
Exactly.
Yeah. And speaking of Elvis, so I guess we should get on to the star of the show,
right?
Elvis, portrayed by Austin Butler.
Brian Austin Green, was that his name?
He was in the running. Yeah, he was one of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Austin Butler, a virtual unknown, I guess. Is this his first film?
No, he's been a couple things. He was in that, he was at a supporting role, a small role in that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's where I knew him from.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he's one of the guys, what was his name in the movie? He was one of the guys that breaks into the house and then they beat him up at the end. Like he was, you know, the hippies, they're driving around in the loud car. That's him.
Is he one of the one of the Manson?
Yeah,
guys?
One of the Manson family guys. Yeah.
Well, I'll be damned.
Yeah, there you go. So if you didn't know, now you know. Yep.
Yeah, I did not know that. So I gotta say, I thought he did a great job. Given to what he had to work with, given what this was, I think he should be commended for a fine performance.
I'm going to totally agree with you, and I think exactly the same thing. There wasn't a lot for him to work with in this because it's so, and we're going to get into this in a minute, but with the pacing of it, there's so few times where you could relax into that character and have like moments. It was just this fast pace, let's cut to this, let's cut to that, a lot of camera movement kind of stuff. And so it was always very unsettled. But he found places in it. And here's the weird thing. So when I first saw his face to portray Elvis, I was like, I don't see it. And this is what I had written down. This is before I saw the movie. And this is for joke purposes only. And I'm going to say that Austin Butler, good-looking guy in his own right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Elvis, also good-looking, slightly different looking. Like, they have different features. But when I saw him in the get-ups and stuff, this is what I kind of thought, is that it looked like if somebody was describing what Elvis looked like over the phone to a police sketch artist, and then somebody took that sketch and then turned it into a statue, like a bust. And then, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but there's a Portuguese footballer, soccer player, named Cristiano Ronaldo. Mm-hmm. And there's this very famous, you should Google this right now, and you'll kind of get the joke. And if you're listening now at home, Cristiano Ronaldo bust. And that's all it has to you put in. And it's this pretty famous thing where it looks nothing like him. And it's kind of looks kind of messed up. And that's what I thought. But then I went to go see the movie, and they did something kind of great at the beginning where they would have this Austin Butler guy, and then they also had times where they're actually showing Elvis. Mm-hmm. And at some point, I don't know if it just like confuses your brain into conflating the two images. And I think they also had him sing with Elvis. So when Elvis is singing a lot of things, Austin is singing the early stuff. And then as it progressed, they were putting him in, they were mixing him in with Elvis. So I think there's sort of this psychoacoustic thing that's also happening, and a psycho-visual thing where you're kind of seeing them both as the same thing. So I, at some point, was like, oh no, okay, yeah, he's a perfectly good-looking guy who looks kind of like Elvis. Not exactly like him, but right. I'll take it.
I do feel like they found every possible angle they could shoot this guy at that he looked the most like Elvis.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and there seemed to be these kind of like camera under his face, 3/4 views. He's looking off in the distance, and I'm like, oh, damn, look, he looks a lot like Elvis right there. And who knows, maybe some sort of CGI trickery going on. I wouldn't put anything past this Baz Luhrmann fellow as far as the old movie magic razzle dazzle. But right. Yeah, I was catching that during the film, a lot of montages. And let me just say right now, this movie's got more montages than Rocky IV.
It's a lot of montages. It's mostly a montage.
Right.
With a couple of scenes in there for you to kind of hold on to. And there's some scene work where two people are having a conversation. They're all so brief.
Yeah.
That it's just this, move to this, move to this, move to this. And that's kind of what I didn't like about the movie. Like, we can never feel like you get this sense of the man, right? It's like this...
No.
I don't know how to explain it, really. But it's like being in a blender, basically, with all these ideas about Elvis.
It plays like a 2-hour and 40-minute trailer for itself.
Yeah, okay, exactly. Man, well put. So we're kind of sliding into, I think, what we were talking about now is like, what didn't work, right?
You're right.
And I think that's the big thing for me. I never felt many connections with the character. Mm-hmm. The scene where Gladys has died and he's in the closet and he's like crying, holding her gowns and stuff. Right. I didn't feel like any emotion for that scene because I didn't see their connection between him and Gladys that strongly. Right? It was just a couple of scenes of them talking in a kitchen, him talking about buying her a Cadillac, him getting her a house, that she dies. You know, and that's it. And it's so fast-paced that you never get a sense that these two people are... Literally, I mean, she doted on him. They were each other's lives. I mean, when we talk about, I'm going to call you when I get to the hotel room, he talked to her for a couple of hours, especially right when he started. So you don't get that sense at all of how close they were.
No, you don't. And, I mean, whatever, there's no, like, objective truth to the story of Elvis or whatever, but... If I was making my Elvis biopic, I mean, that's your core right there. Elvis and Gladys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how everything changes when she dies, you know? And you do not get a sense of that at all in this film. And to be honest, this is a little embarrassing. That's when I got up and took a leak. So I missed Gladys dying in this film.
Oh, man.
Because it happens in such a short amount of time. It doesn't help that the multiplex I saw this in, the bathroom was on the ass end of where I was. I was in Theater 4, and I had to walk down this long hallway and go across the snack bar and go down this other hallway. And I'm like, shouldn't there be a bathroom on this side of the theater? I don't know. This is weird. But anyway, I miss Gladys dying. So,
well, here was your mistake. I think you should have gotten a smaller soda.
Well, that was it. I thought I was doing that. I got cut early from work, so I made myself an enormous cocktail to take with me.
Ah, nice.
So anyway, when I got to the theater, I got a medium Barks root beer.
There you go.
Which I wouldn't have gone for Barks, but that was the only choice I had.
Yeah. Well, it's got bite. That's what they say.
It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah. It's on the low end of a root beer I'd order.
It is maybe my second to last choice of root beer.
Wait, what's your least favorite root beer?
I think Mug root beer.
Mug, you like Mug less than you like Barks. See, I would go the opposite. I like Mug a little bit better. And what about A&W?
A&W is gold to me. I love A&W.
Yeah. Okay.
But, if you want to talk like, real root beer, it's like any of the small batch, locally produced stuff in your hometown is going to be better than that mass market stuff.
Sure.
Here in St. Louis, I get a big ups to Fitz's root beer.
It's a good
fantastic.
One. I've had that.
I love it.
Dad's root beer is pretty good too. And, and I think it's fitting that we're talking about soda because, Elvis was a big soda hound. So this tracks, people. I just want you to know. It's okay for us to do that. He switched from Pepsi to Coke. I noticed that because he was drinking Pepsi earlier on, and then later on he was some Coke products. So,
well, there was a lot of Pepsis in this film. Drank out of glass bottles, except for the final scene. The scene. He's drinking a Coke, and then he dies.
Yeah. Oh, spoil it. Wait till the end of the podcast to let people know what happened. So, I think that's the big thing. The other thing for me, and Baz Luhrmann does this in, I think, all of his movies, is the music. So, Elvis has some very good music. And I understand it's also something that kind of takes me out of it, is this reimagining of the music, right? Where they take it, and some of it works, like in small doses, I think it works. But he's trying to find this young audience that's going to want to come see this movie, and instead of exposing them to the music that was, he's trying to make that music what is popular today. But then I think it does kind of a disservice to both things, because now it's making it of this time, and the thing is that now it's not going to age very well. Does that make sense? So now it's like you've taken something, so it's not from either thing, and like, a year from now when it's not, what's happening now isn't popular, you've retrofitted this old song to sound like 2022, and in 2025 you're gonna well, that just sounds like garbage.
Right.
Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's gonna be a bunch of hits out of it, who am I to say? But I didn't like.
I'm of two minds about it. Anything that they could have put in this movie to kind of like basically piss off boomer fans of Elvis, I think is kind of a hoot. Elvis is walking down the street, walking down this like kind of glitzy reimagining of Beale Street, and there's like Doja Cat, playing in the background. I mean, like
that is pretty funny. Yeah.
I mean that kind of like made me chuckle in the theater. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, but that's fine though, because that's something that's written for that, right?
Right.
So, but sometimes when they're trying to retool the old songs, I think that's what I didn't like. I don't mind that they're using modern music in that. I think that's fine. But I think it's the reimagining of the old tunes that I don't love. But some of it worked. Yeah. Some of it did work. There's one or two that I think was playing over the credits that sounded actually pretty good. But I don't know if I'm going to be buying the soundtrack. Maybe if it's on Spotify, I might check it out.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I feel like duty bound to check it out as a co-host of an Elvis podcast, know what's going on out there. But I had like less of a problem with that stuff. Just stuff that I had problems with is that, correct me if I'm wrong, was Elvis and B.B. King good buddies who hung out a lot?
Yeah, I don't think so much.
And if they did B.B. King exist to just be a cheerleader for Elvis and be like, follow your dreams, sonny boy? And
right, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's such a weird choice to have him when I think, and we'll get in this in a moment, yes, I don't think B.B. King's the guy. I think like his confidant at that time was Gladys, and then it was probably Red West.
Yeah.
Who, we'll get to this in a minute, but man, what a disservice he did to that whole part of his life. It basically didn't exist. It was, once again, a montage.
Right.
And then that's it. That's pretty much all you get of those guys.
Right. And longtime listeners of the show will know how we feel about Red West.
Yep, big fans.
But big fans. And Red West, at a big budget, summer release, 2 hour and 40-minute Elvis biopic, not a single line?
Not a line in it, yeah. Or Sonny. But they did
Sonny less so, but Red West, man.
But Red West doesn't have a line in it. Yeah, he gets beat up in every freaking Elvis movie.
Right.
He wrote songs for the guy. He went over to Germany with him for that entire time.
Charlie Hodge gets a line.
Charlie Hodge, the human microphone stand, gets a line.
Right.
It's shilling, of course, but that makes sense, I guess, because I don't know, because he's alive and he still knows them, and he was going to be at the premiere, I guess. He was pretty integral, and I think probably more verbal about certain things with Elvis's career.
And wow, what a hunky beefcake he was.
Yeah, Jerry Schilling. Yeah, that guy.
Right.
Yeah,
he's a real hunk. Anyway, if Baz Luhrmann happens to be listening to this podcast, and it's like, whatever, man, you made your movie, it's done, it's already in theaters. But if you want to really make the Elvis biopic and you want to have like a framing sequence and narrated by somebody who isn't Elvis or whatever, Red West is your guy.
Yep, I agree.
And Red West died more recently, so it could be like, oh, here's Red West in the kind of like modern world that the kids recognize, and he's like doddering around and maybe kind of pushing his IV drip around a old karate studio or whatever, and let me tell you about the life of Elvis, and blah blah blah. And it's like, that's your movie right there. And the fact that they cast a redheaded dude to play Red West, who's just in the background of a couple scenes, it's like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, it's pretty sad. It's too bad. Like, they really missed an opportunity there to kind of explore a big part of his life. I mean, he spent a lot of time with those guys. And also, the way he treated them was not always great. He controlled them in a way, I think probably because he was controlled by the Colonel.
And just, speaking of the mafia, why was Lamar Fike, why did he look 70 years old?
I don't know. The guy that they had playing him, they got the size right, but I don't know.
They did.
Yeah, but that guy literally looks like he's probably in his late 50s at least.
Right. It's like, hey, Baz Luhrmann, Lamar Fike and Elvis were approximately the same age.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
And then also Dr. Nick. Why does Dr. Nick look like 75 years old?
I don't know. Yeah, also not that old at that time. Yeah, I guess that's the thing. It's like what we were saying. It's like a lot of the pieces don't make sense. Mm-hmm. Like the things surrounding Elvis. It's like I think they were just so worried about getting Elvis right. I think the woman that plays Priscilla is pretty good, but once again, you basically get like 2 scenes with her that are worth anything. And there's the young in Germany thing,
right?
And then kind of later on when she's gonna leave him.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
and the rest of the time she's in montages. Yeah, it's like she's on the bus. Here she is. She's like giving birth, and she's like, Elvis, you got to give up these pills, and I'm leaving you, and like blah blah blah.
So this is what I don't like about the movies. It feels like some like carnival trick, right? It's like this promise of this thing that's never delivered, and you keep thinking like you're going to get it in the next scene, and it keeps not appearing, right? It's like, oh yeah,
right.
but we're really going to get the heart of Elvis here, and you're really going to understand this guy here. But then it just keeps montage after montage. What I did like about it, though, are some of the musical numbers. And I think that's really where it kind of shined through. And I think that's where this Austin Butler guy nailed it. He found a way to embody the movements and his performance style. So the If I Can Dream, such a powerful moment in the 68 special. And they really took time to make it a powerful moment in the movie, too. Kind of mid to late part of the movie. I think it worked really well because it's a loud number and the kind of crescendos and all that. So those parts pay off. The part when they're building up to that first performance at the International in Vegas, that's pretty good. The way they kind of introduced the group, the way almost how he did it on stage. Come on, Jerry, play it like this, and come on, Ronnie, and walking through and kind of talking to all of them, kind of how he did on stage. So
right. Yeah, it was. And once again, stuff we talk about a lot. Whoever was in charge of the guitar equipment of this film got it all spot on.
Right. Yep.
I think that's what you expect from a 2022 major release. There's somebody or a whole team on staff dedicated to getting these details right. You know, like the James Burton, Paisley Telly.
Yep, absolutely. And Jerry Schiff's bass.
Yeah.
You know,
and here's another nitpick.
Yeah.
Why was Jerry Schiff like this fire engine red hair?
I don't know.
Because it would be one thing, it's like, well, this guy is like a badass on bass like Jerry Schiff was, so that's why he was cast. But there was not necessarily anything that he was doing that you could tell he was like a badass on bass. And the fact that their guy who's playing James Burton is obviously wearing a wig.
Yeah, it's very wiggy.
Yeah. It was like a bad Beastie Boys Sabotage wig that he's wearing.
Yeah,
So,
and he was mustachioed at part of it too, and I think the mustache even looks really fake.
Right. So I'm like, well, if we're doing wigs here, you know, you can get a wig that looks like Jerry Schiff, and Jerry Schiff was not a redhead.
No.
You know, let's give Jerry Schiff, you know, credit where credit's due. I mean, you know, TCB band. He played with the Doors. We've talked about this guy a lot.
He's great. If you had a mascot from that era of his band, that would be mine. I would get a T-shirt, a Jerry Schiff T-shirt.
Yes, I would too. I would too.
Great. Yeah, he's great. But I think what the reason that they weren't paying money for all that stuff is because they spent a lot of money on the Elvis costumes, which were pretty spot on.
Yeah,
like all of those, and the jumpsuits. Like all the jumpsuits looked great.
Mm-hmm.
How they dressed him through the whole movie was great, because you could see those photos with like him and Priscilla and Lisa Marie and like 69 or whatever and 70 with, you know, the kind of pompadour and the mock turtleneck thing. They nailed it. The color of it, like all of it, the texture, it was like exactly what he would have been wearing.
Right. And then I also liked his kind of Vegas rehearsals outfit. Black trousers, big belt, wild ass shirt, enormous sunglasses. Yeah.
And they got his weird haircut from that time too. Like the floppy how it kind of, you know, he'd come out and it'd be up, and then through the course of it just gets sweaty and it kind of mat down and it becomes this mobby mess.
Though I would have to say there's like a live montage, and it's like, I don't know if Elvis ever appeared on stage like sopping wet. I mean,
maybe towards the end. I bet he did. Like he was pretty sweaty, especially later on.
You know, I never saw Elvis in concert or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But especially during, like, you know, the real go for broke late 60s, early 70s Vegas stuff. But there's a couple shots where it looks like dude just came right out of the shower.
Yeah.
He's just, come on, man.
Who was ever in charge of the spray bottle was just like, a couple more spritzes.
Right.
Why not?
Right. Are we still talking cons, or are we talking pros?
No, I guess we sort of moved to pros, because those are pros. And the one of the other things I really liked is that they sort of aped the editing from the Aloha special with the like multi-panel thing.
Right.
And numerous times they show him sticking a gun into his boot. And I was like, yes. Because we've talked about this in a couple of shows. Every time he went out on stage, he had a gun on him. He was a gun-loving guy.
Every single time.
Just in day-to-day life, he had a gun on him constantly. And once again, I don't know, in the other boot, you know, just to even it out, extra clips, maybe just a couple extra bullets to reload with, maybe another gun, maybe a different style of gun, or a knife, anything. But definitely the gun in one boot, on the right boot.
I think a knife is unlikely, but I could definitely see a second gun. Extra clips, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's in his belt buckle. Maybe he pops the belt buckle open. You grab an extra clip out, shut it.
Right.
Yeah. He had the money. He could make that happen.
Sure. I had some stuff written down as some extra cons.
If you need to talk cons, feel free.
Okay, here's the thing. The fact that in the movie, Elvis goes from the Army to Hollywood to the 68 comeback special, less than 3 minutes.
Well, I have a theory on this. So what you're missing is basically all of the Hollywood stuff. The reason I think that they did this is that they didn't want you to realize while you're watching a movie about Elvis is that Elvis made 31 major motion pictures that were as good, if not better, than the movie you were watching.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Once again, for a movie that's like 2 hours and 40 minutes, it's like we got all the time in the world, you would think, right?
Yeah.
It's like Goodfellas is like 220. You know, it's like you don't feel like they left anything out.
Right.
But like 240, and I don't know what I was expecting going in, other than like maybe there should have been a scene that's like 6 minutes that happens on the set of like Clam Bake or something where he's doing too many drugs and it's like, what am I doing? And like that would be the whole kind of like impetuous to get us to the 68 comeback special. But no, we don't get that at all.
Yeah,
and
nothing.
I think that me and you, Burl, as Elvis fans, have more of an appreciation of the film career than I think like your average Elvis fan.
Sure.
So I just thought that was insane that all that stuff are glossed over like that.
But I guess what they're going for is the only thing I could think of is they were trying to recreate what it was like for it, seeing him on stage, like as a showman on stage, and showing him in Hollywood. You could show how he was very unhappy being stuck in these formulaic movies, not being able to have a connection with an audience anymore, and how he still needed that. And that's what kind of drove him to get back out and do it, you know. And it's the weird thing, he had the meeting at the Hollywood sign with the two guys that produce his 68 special, the Christmas special, where he's supposed to wear the sweater and sing all the Christmas songs, which really didn't happen that way. Like,
one of
them,
the
like
many liberties taken by this film.
Yeah, so if you were under the belief that the Colonel, after weeks of rehearsal, because they were rehearsing this stuff for a couple of weeks before they do it, they knew what they were doing. They knew it was going to be this show. He might not have liked all of the stuff and wanted certain numbers, and like, nah, we're not going to do it that way. But those two guys who produced the show, they, at one point in real life, they basically took him in Hollywood, like down to like the Sunset Strip or something, and just walked down the street with him, and nobody knew who the hell he was. And that was one of the reasons, like, I got to get back out in front of people. It's like, I've been stuck in a movie set for the better part of 10 years.
Right.
That would have been a great scene. That would have been a great scene. And they didn't do it. I think it's a huge missed opportunity.
I feel like there's been a Elvis biopic where they include that scene, you know, like that sequence of events. But yeah, no. I mean, that's fantastic. So we spend about the first half of the movie in the 50s, and then Army, Hollywood, blah, 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 3 minutes. And then the 68 comeback special is like 45 minutes of content.
Yeah,
in this movie.
It's a lot.
And like, whatever. You know, like this 68 comeback special. And here's an old joke that me and you have.
No, I want to hear it. Yeah.
How soon did people start referring to it as the 68 comeback special?
It was literally the next day.
the next day.
Apparently, like, because even they have Tom Hanks, Colonel Tom, say it. And I laughed during that, mostly probably because we have had that joke for so long. But it was like right after, it's like, y'all, 68 comeback special. And it's like, they didn't call it that. Like, it probably took them a while. Like, I don't know how soon it was, but probably into the 70s before that's what they really referred to it as. That.
Maybe after he died. I don't know.
Maybe.
Do you think the next morning after it aired, somebody like, hey, Steve, did you watch Elvis's special last night? I think this was his comeback.
Oh, you mean the 1968 comeback special featuring Elvis Presley?
Because that's the year this is, 1968.
Yeah, that's probably how they referred to it. Yeah, no, it would have been much later in his career, or after he passed away, that I think they started calling it that.
But also, in regards to that, the fact that the movie wants you to believe that they constructed this full-on Christmas set as a dummy to fool Colonel Tom Parker.
Yeah, no.
It's just asinine. And, you know, it's
a huge waste of money. Like, you know, all those things are done to make money. You wouldn't waste that much money to do that.
Once again, if this is the fever dream imaginings of a dying man, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But, like, not Colonel Tom Parker's fever dream reimaginings as a dying man. It's like, oh yeah, they built this set to fool me. And
right. The guy who's the king of the snow job gets snowed with a Christmas special. They snow him with a Christmas special. It's just ridiculous to believe that that's how that went. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, come on. So that was ridiculous. And as far as like other cons go, I'm looking at my list. I don't know. That was like the major stuff I had. Other than the fact that Fat Elvis never existed.
Yeah, they do talk about his waistline at one point, and then he's getting on the plane after he gets out of the limo with Priscilla. What's he rocking, like a 32 waist there? Wow, man, he's really packed it on.
Right.
He's like, like at that point, he was big. He was very big at that point.
Right. To coin a phrase, still thin as a rake and more handsome than 1,000 movie stars.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it's like, come on, man.
Yeah, because in that last scene where they have him playing, and I will say, very accurately, with like the garbage all over the top of the piano and the Coke cups and all that stuff, and he's got the Aztec sun on, and he's playing.
Yeah, I just got to tell you right now that Brad and Pat over at Elvis Book Club are going to love all that.
Yeah, they will love it. Yeah, that's true. But very accurate representation of that with Charlie Hodge holding a mic because they couldn't afford a mic stand. So Charlie Hodge says, "I'll jump in." That's the only time they even showed him a little heavy in this. Mm-hmm. But then when they cut to it at the end and they showed the actual footage, it's like, oh yeah, he was really pill puffy, like he's got like prednisone face. Mm-hmm. They never portrayed him the way he actually kind of looked in that. But I mean, that's all. I'm gonna blame Baz for that. Nobody wants to see that. Let's keep him thin and attractive.
Right.
So I think to kind of wrap it up, or kind of begin to wrap it up, kind of final thoughts on the film. Honestly, you're getting what you think you're going to get from this. Mm-hmm. It is not accurate in the slightest. There are a lot of major things that happened in his life that they just gloss over. Entire portions of his career, they just, montage. And they use montages to get through a lot of his life. And they don't take a lot of time to really show you certain things that I think really shaped him as a person. What they did get right, I think, is his stage presence. They did a really good job at showing him on stage, especially that early stuff in the 50s and, with the feedback on the hayride and all that stuff. Him in the 68 special doing If I Can Dream, which is a great scene. And then just threw on, like I said, I'd said it before, like the show at the International. All those things really are great. They do a really, really good job at that. And it's unfortunate that I think that a lot of the supporting characters, none of them get a chance to shine in this. Right? Like, they're all just cardboard. You could have used anybody in most of those, I feel, and you wouldn't have missed it. It's just Hanks and Butler. And those are the two guys. And everybody else is just sort of just background.
Right. Well, the guy who plays Jerry Schilling, we should look that up. He gives good smolder, but
Luke Bracey is his name.
Luke Bracey. Yeah. That sounds made up. But I don't know.
Would you believe his name is Luke Bracey? We'll get to those in a minute.
We'll get to it. Yeah. No, but you're exactly right. Yeah, it's a two-man show, and everybody else is like a distant afterthought. Yeah, definitely.
Yep. And like I said, I think it's unfortunate because you should definitely, if nothing else, they should have spent time on his relationship with Gladys. Mm-hmm. And I think they should have spent more time with Priscilla. And just one scene with Red West, couldn't fit that in. One scene. It's unfortunate. But all in all, it's kind of bubblegum. It's a retelling. It's a reimagining. As you said, a fever dream version of like what actually happened. But it's gorgeous to look at. Parts of it, like I said, the costuming and all that stuff, and it's cool. Like some of the performances are really great, but yeah, it's thin on emotional character development. So, yeah. So I don't know. How about you? What are your thoughts?
Pretty early on, it really helps, and I think this movie is really going to be like elevated by the fact that this Austin Butler kid does a really good job of just like physically embodying Elvis. Like you say, like the 70s Vegas stuff and the If I Can Dream, it's just like, I don't know if he had some sort of like coach or something, or he's just that good, just like embodying the physicality of Elvis, like the way he moves. Because I mean, that's like as important to the Elvis persona as anything, just this kind of like stage presence. But really early on in the movie, I was just like, man, here we go again. Because for me, growing up, I was like, I like Elvis. I like the music. I didn't really think that much more about it. And we got into this when we reread Elvis, What Happened. And I read that stuff like the drugs and the guns and the karate and the firing people all the time and all that. And that's when I went from casual fan to super fan.
Right.
Because, not that I'm like, a fan of assholes, but that's when Elvis became really interesting to me, when he became human to me.
Right.
And this movie just won't let him be a human being.
Right.
It's like every step of the way, Elvis is like, oh, well, he's on, he was right about this and he's right about that. And there's not a single scene where Elvis tells anyone off, really, or is cruel or is like needlessly violent. There's maybe 2 scenes with drugs, 1 scene with guns.
He does shoot out a television in it. A couple of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
There are no scenes with karate.
Okay, this brings me to, I was going to bring this up. The scene where the guy tries to attack him on stage. That actually did happen, but not anything like that.
Yeah.
Because there's footage of that where they like tackle a guy, but then they're getting him off the stage and Elvis is literally 10 feet away just doing karate. But I don't think he ever lays a hand on the guy.
Right.
And this would have been like later in his career where he's like pretty out of it. He's like pretty drugged out. He's pretty heavy at this point. I think it's mid 70s or something that happens.
Right.
Yeah.
So, there's no karate. And this movie, it condemns Colonel Tom Parker every step of the way for wanting to sand down the rough edges, for wanting to have him do a Christmas special instead of something that he wanted to do, and like all this other thing. But the movie, in its way that it doesn't let Elvis be a 3-dimensional human being with flaws. I mean, this fact of the matter is, nobody mentions in the film that when he's in the army and he's first meeting Priscilla, she's 14 years old. That never comes up. No. And they even, in that scene, share like this passionate kiss. And I'm just like in my seat kind of cringing, like, oh, geez. Yeah. At the very least, when they had Charlie Hodge poke his head in, he could have been like, she's got to be home by 7, and she's 14 years old. Yeah. Elvis, what are you doing, man? Right. Yeah. It's like they could have given us that. Yeah. But that's just the thing about Elvis fandom that I have the hardest time with as like a guy who's been an Elvis fan for decades. There's a lot of things about Elvis that aren't okay, and it's okay to acknowledge that. And his narcissism and his cruelty and his dalliances with young girls. Right. And there's all that stuff. So as a result, as we're watching this film, I think back to the scene where, Elvis is doing that charity concert and comes out and he does Trouble. Yeah. From King Creole later on the 68 comeback special. And then the Colonel's freaking out and this isn't, oh, no, we can't do that. But that's what the movie does. It's trying to sanitize his life, and the goal of this film, I think, is to just be brand management for Elvis Presley. Exactly. They're just literally, let's just continue the image of Elvis without ever getting to know Elvis. He's just the guy on stage, right? Right. And that's what you get, is you kind of just get the guy on stage. He's the nicest guy you'll ever want to meet, and he's a great singer and loves his family and like blah, blah, blah. It's like, but that robs him of being a person. Right. And exactly. So as a result, if, as an audience, we're like watching this movie and we're cheering it on, we're just as guilty as what the Colonel wanted to do. Right. Yep. It's like, oh, he's America's boy and blah, blah, blah. Because in that scene, the charity concert where, he sings Trouble, they're saying, well, Elvis is a rebel at heart and, he's just too damn sexy for the world and that's his fault. Who's going to cast the first stone or whatever? And it's like, no, man, that wasn't what was wrong with that guy at all.
Right.
There's like all this other stuff. There's never a scene where Elvis pulls a gun on like Jimmy Webb and like, I ought to kill you for talking to me like that. Or,
right. Yep.
Like, stuff like that. So ultimately I walk out of the movie and I'm like, well, how long is it going to be until we have another huge budget Elvis biopic? It's probably going to be a while. This is what we're stuck with for now. So
that's what we get. And I will say, just get back to it. Yeah. Before we kind of wrap this up, I will say we talked about his physicality, but that Austin Butler, and I know I once again, I apologize for telling that thing about Cristiano Ronaldo, the bust thing earlier, because he's a very good-looking guy, so no harm meant. But he does nail the voice, too. And I remember thinking, man, if he did this voice any better, we'd need subtitles. Because early Elvis, man, some of those interviews, it's like, what is he saying? I'm not catching any of that. He just got that drawl so thick.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, but he did a very good job with that. So I think, it wraps it up. I mean, it's the Elvis movie we're going to get, the biopic. It's not really even a biopic. It's like a reimagining of Elvis's image. That's basically what it is. But still, there are some good parts that come out of it. And, I think this Austin Butler, man, if he can do this and make me like this movie, he's a pretty damn good actor then.
That's my main takeaway. I wasn't impressed by the trailers at all. And I thought the guy looked kind of weird, really, from the trailer. And then, like, watching the film, I'm like, you know what? The kid's got it. Also, very briefly, whoever they got to play 10-year-old Elvis looks exactly like the photos of 10-year-old Elvis.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Unreal.
It is pretty uncanny. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
They might have created him in a lab.
It could be CGI for all I know.
Could be, might be. Yeah, it might be one of those like deep fake things.
Ooh,
they just had what do you think it is? Ooh, let's look into that. Not right now.
Man. Yeah, that's eerie.
We'll let you know in the next episode.
And like Elvis fans have known this for years, but the whole Captain Marvel Jr. thing. It's good to see that finally be acknowledged in a film.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why he wore his hair like that, man. Loved it. Yep.
That's why his jumpsuits look like that.
Absolutely.
The collar and the little cape. That's Captain Marvel Jr., man.
Captain Marvel Jr. all the way.
All right.
Well, this brings us to, I got him right in front of me, what everybody loves about this show from the zero feedback we get. But it brings us to Would You Believe? Which I believe now. Wade, do we have a sponsor for Would You Believe?
Actually, we do. Yeah. We now have sponsors. Tonight's Would You Believe is sponsored by Maxine's Barbecue Sauce Removal Kit. Which is it's a small satchel that you'll carry to your local barbecue joint, and it's a bunch of small rags and miniature mops that, in case there's too much sauce on your pulled pork, can remove it in a jiffy. That's Maxine's Barbecue Sauce Removal Kit.
Does it come with one of those? Does it look like a pasta roller, so you can just wring out the extra sauce?
Yeah, a little hand-turned crank.
yeah. Don't laugh. Do you remember how long it took us to get this sponsor? Do not laugh at their product. It is
Sorry.
Interesting. And the thing is, I think it's really, you don't really need it in Texas. If you're having Texas barbecue, you kind of apply your own sauce. So it's more for like the Carolinas, the Memphis style, and then the Kansas City style barbecues. So if you're heading to any of these destinations, go ahead and pick yourself up one of those. And you're going to be glad you did.
Actually, there's a empty storefront right next to Arthur Bryant's in Kansas City that Maxine opened up shop.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, but you can't use that front door anymore. You got to go on the side because the handle's broken, right? So you got to go in and that's the thing. It's hard to get in. You kind of have to know the place.
Well, the handle's not broken. It's just slathered in sauce.
You don't want to touch it.
Right.
Yeah. It's not a white glove place. You don't want to go in there. But yeah, go in the side. Just knock and they'll let you in the side door.
Right. So the hand-turn crank sauce removal apparatus Not recommended for beef brisket.
No. Or burn ends.
Or burn ends. No.
Yeah. All right.
That voids the warranty.
Yeah. So be aware. All right. So now we've got the sponsor out of the way for Would You Believe?
Sure.
So I got a couple of them here. So Tom Hanks. He's in the movie. Mm-hmm. He plays the character Colonel Tom Parker.
Yes.
Which we've talked about earlier. And to prepare for the role, to get to this accent that he found, he went to Holland. And he spent a bunch of time there. And the thing is, he really liked it, him and his wife. And they bought a house while they were there. And he was on Colbert the other day. I don't know if you saw this. But he actually, they like it so much, he's actually going to apply for dual citizenship. Would you believe?
It's been a while since we've done one of these, so I'll say yes, I would believe that.
That is incorrect. That is false.
God.
That is, you don't believe that one. Don't believe it. All right. Okay. So now, this is some casting stuff. So I was doing a little look at some casting and some people that they wanted for roles. So I got two of these, both pretty interesting. Originally, Gladys was supposed to be played by Maggie Gyllenhaal. Would you believe?
I do not believe that.
Nope, that's true. That is true. Maggie Gyllenhaal was, she was signed up. I don't know what happened. I think it just because of COVID, it all got pushed back. So she had to go to another project. So yeah, she left the project. Maggie Gyllenhaal. I'm glad they didn't get her.
Yeah,
I don't have anything against her. I don't think. Well, I don't know. You know what? Actually, she's kind of got sad eyes like Gladys. It would have worked.
She does, but what is she, like 35 or something?
Oh, I don't know. She's probably in her 40s. We should never discuss a woman's age.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But yeah. Well, I'm keeping my unbroken streak of getting all of these wrong.
Yeah, I know. I know. The other one, now, I don't think he was in the running for the role of Vernon, which I found pretty interesting because we know him, we love him. It's Michael St. Gerard, who played Elvis in Elvis the early years. They wanted to bring him on. Obviously, it didn't work out, but he was in the early running to play Vernon in the movie. Michael St. Gerard. Would you believe?
That I do not believe.
That's correct. You are correct. That is a falsified. Don't believe that one. That didn't happen. All right.
Yeah. I remember there was a time in the early 90s where me and you had the idea that Michael St. Gerard should marry Lisa Marie.
Yeah. I still think that.
And start, knocking out kids and see if we can't get an exact duplicate of Elvis.
Yeah. It wasn't meant to be. Meant to be. Yeah.
Wasn't.
Yep. It's sad. But I hope Michael St. Gerard's doing okay. I like that guy. I liked him in that. Yeah. That was a good show. Honestly, I haven't thought about that guy in a while. I mean, have you seen a recent picture? Does he still look exactly like Elvis? No, probably not. I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably looks a lot like Vernon now.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
So now, we had talked about the gentleman that played Red West in the movie. He's an actor. His name's Christian McCarty. All right?
Okay.
The weird thing is, having read a little bit up on this, he is related to Red West by marriage. So his aunt is married to John Boyd West, who is Red's son, making Red his great uncle. Would you believe?
That's just too specific to not believe.
So you believe it?
Yes, I believe it.
Oh, man. Sorry about that. Because don't believe that one. That is incorrect. No, I made that one up.
God damn.
Well, you 25%, man. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I guess.
So if you're playing along, there was 3 don't believes, 1 believe. So,
God damn it, Burl. What if every day was like Christmas?
Oh, man. Get the Colonel on the phone, man. We got to make a song. Well, I think we kind of nailed it. We should thank our sponsor again for bringing you that installment of Would You Believe?
Yeah, so thanks again to Maxine's Barbecue Sauce Removal Kit. You could look that up on the web at Maxine's Barbecue Sauce Removal Kit.net.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because we've been around a while.
Yeah. So,
excellent. I think all we can say is go check this movie out. If nothing else is, just a way to get out of the heat for a while this summer. But
the irony being like, I think this would be best viewed kind of casually at like a drive-in, like all the Elvis's movies were mostly screened. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, if you're watching Elvis by Baz Luhrmann at the drive-in, it's not going to get started till like 9 p.m. And then there's a second movie. You're not getting home till 4 in the morning.
Yeah, that's probably true. You're right.
Right.
Yeah.
So kind of a bummer.
Yeah, just bring a sleeping bag. Stay there. They're fine with it. They don't. You don't need to go anywhere. They'll lock you in.
Yeah, there's a lot of drive-ins that offer camping options now. So
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice, which is nice. Take the kids or don't leave them at home.
Yeah.
Have somebody else watch them for one day.
Kids don't care about Elvis.
They don't want to know anything about him. They will though. They'll get into him a few years. Once they hit about 8, it's the cape thing. They'll want to start dressing like him. I think we're kind of towards the end of the show, so I guess we'll kind of talk about how you can get in touch with us and follow us on social media and stuff. So if by some reason you would want to email us, you can do that at suspiciousmindspodcast77@gmail.com.
Nice.
Or you can text us or call and leave a message at 773-389-4276. And what about our social media, Wade?
Well, you could always find us on Facebook at Suspicious Minds Podcast with Wade and Burl. And it's the little and sign, not the word written out, for the sake of brevity. You can check us out on Instagram at Suspicious Minds Podcast, which, man, I tell you, the Insta is blowing up. I don't know what the deal is.
I don't know. You're doing something right. You're doing it. It's getting done. Yeah, I've checked that the other day. We're doing okay there. But send your friends over. Tell them about us.
We got all kinds of funny crap going on there all the time on the Insta page. Yeah. Well worth checking out.
Well, I don't know, man. I think this one is pretty much wrapped up. Unless there's anything. We didn't get around to talking about Kiss at all. Oh,
well, I guess the only way that could come up is that there's a Kiss biopic coming up soon.
Okay, which we won't cover on the show, but we may somehow work something Elvis related into it. So
we'll certainly watch it independently, and it'll be a part of our lives, but we probably won't talk about it.
Yeah, it will inform how we see Elvis, maybe. I don't know. Probably not. But it's been a pleasure, as always. And we'll do this again soon, and the rest of the season will be coming out probably in the fall sometime. We'll start dropping those.
Yeah, we'll have all kinds of fresh material for you guys.
It better be. I need
some. And girls.
Yep, absolutely. I need some fresh material. All right. Well, I think that kind of does it for us on this episode. So, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.